Hey guys, Tom here again from synthhacker.com and welcome back to another tutorial for Native Instruments Massive. Got a really cool sound for you today. This is kind of emulating like old school kind of rave chord synth that you heard, that you will have heard a lot in like Prodigy tracks and stuff like that. And also there's a lot of artists using it recently, such as Skrillex's side project, which is called Dog Blood with Boys Noise, I think it is. And I'll just quickly demonstrate the sound that I'm talking about. So a really cool sound. There's a lot of uses for this, and I've heard some really cool tracks. It's kind of like it's been used a lot in recently. What I would describe is like a blend between like electro and techno. Really cool stuff. So there's a lot to kind of cover in this sound in terms of what gives it its characteristics and stuff. So we'll just get straight into it. Obviously, before I do, as always guys, this video is sponsored by my website, which is synthhacker.com. I currently have a sale on the mega pack for Massive, which I released a couple of months ago, which contains over 500 presets for Massive, spanning a multitude of genres, all handcrafted by me, of course. So definitely go ahead and check that out over at synthhacker.com. I'll click the link in the description below if you want to go ahead and check that out. And thanks in advance if you do decide to purchase that as well. It really helps support me and the channel, and also you get your hands on some awesome presets. But without further ado, let's begin making this sound. So the first thing to make sure is that the voicing tab is set up correctly. It is actually a monophonic sound, which is kind of crazy because we're hearing chords, right? But that's actually coming from how we pitch the oscillators, which I'll get onto in just a second. So make sure the sound is monophonic, but make sure it has 5 voices of unison, and switch this pitch cutoff unison spread on here, and just move the slider slightly to the right. The next thing we are going to do is go into the oscillator tab and change the glide mode to equal. Just bring it down slightly, but as you will have heard at the start, there was actually some glide in there. It was gliding from chord to chord, which is a really cool effect. Because it's essentially, you know, most of the time when you hear glide, it's just like a mono lead and it's just sliding from one note to another. But because of the way we're pitching the oscillators and it being a chord sound, it's got this really cool effect where all the notes in the chord are sliding to and from each other. It's really cool. But this is completely optional. If you don't want the glide and you just want it to be just staccato chords and each chord sound exactly the same, then you might want to just turn time down altogether and you'll have no glide. But it's completely up to you. I quite like the glide effect. The next thing we're going to do is set up our oscillators. So the first thing, before we even get into the wavetables of these oscillators, we're going to set up a minor chord. So to do this, we have the pitch of oscillator 1 set to 0, just the default. I'm going to slightly detune it a little bit just so it's not completely perfect. The next thing we're going to do is change the oscillator 2 to be around 3 semitones up, and then oscillator 3 we're going to set this to about around 7 semitones up. So this produces the chord that we're looking for, and where this stems from really is typically, I think, like old school rave tracks back in the day. Maybe like, I don't know what started this trend or what. Maybe, you know, people back then who were got into like making this like rave style music, didn't have much music theory knowledge. Maybe it stemmed from ignorance. I don't even know. But essentially, you know, that you have like a chord set up on Massive, just like a minor chord, and then you'd play that same chord up and down the keyboard, almost like transposing the chord from key to key. So one thing to make sure is that, or one thing to bear in mind, is that when you're using sounds like this, you're not really using any specific key signature. So you kind of just going from chord to chord, playing a minor chord up and down the keyboard, which is this really cool kind of cool like dissonant effect to it, or like dissonant feeling to it, because it's not actually in any specific key, which is really cool. So typically the way that you'd use this would be like I used it in the demonstration at the beginning. You just play that chord like up and down the keyboard, and just kind of use your ear and just kind of feel what sounds good, rather than trying to think of it from like a theory point of view. So that's kind of what mainly gives it its sound, honestly, is this chord. And then really the wavetables that you can use are completely up to you. That's what's really cool about this sound, is it's really kind of up to you, the kind of tone or timbre that you go to. But the one that I used at the beginning was using the crude wavetable, wherever it is. Is it in digital? I can never find it. I'm really bad at finding wavetables. Or is it in analog electric? Yeah, here we go. So make sure that all these are set to crude if you want the exact tone that I generated. I set them all to crude, and then use the bend plus minus warp mode on all these and turn the intensity all the way to the left, like so. And then we just have this currently. So that's the basic tone that I generated. Again, you can just use whatever you like. Also, what I did was use the noise oscillator, just some bright noise, just to add even more highs to it. And then what we're going to do is just filter everything through filter 1 here. We're going to use a low pass 2 dB filter, bring the cutoff right down, bring the resonance down a little bit as well. And then what we're going to do is set up a filter to, an envelope to modulate the cutoff frequency of the low pass filter that we've set up. We're going to give it a little bit of attack, just so it's not too harsh at the beginning of the sound. We're going to increase the sustain just a little bit. We're going to bring the decay down a little bit, and also give it quite a lot of release. I'm going to drag and drop this onto the cutoff frequency, so we get this. So that's kind of getting there. Another thing we need to do is set up our amplitude envelope, because at the minute it's not really got enough release. We're going to give it quite a lot of release. We're going to bring the sustain down a little bit as well, so it's got the amplitude envelope's got quite a pluck-like nature as well. So it just rings out a little bit as well, which is really cool, rather than it just being completely staccato. The next thing we're going to do is actually set up a chorus effect, just to kind of thicken the sound up a little bit. Just in case you don't know, the way this works is it's essentially sending delayed versions of the signal that's being passed through it to the left and right channels. But this delay is so short that we actually perceive it as one sound, and it's kind of perceiving it as like one kind of thicker sound. So I'll just compare it on and off. So this is on. So it really kind of thickens it up a little bit. I really love chorus. I think it's actually quite an underused effect on lead sounds and just sounds in general. You know, a lot of people, when they're going for lead sounds, go straight to like flanges and phases and you know, stuff like that, and distortion. But chorus is a really great way to thicken up sounds. Really cool. And there's a lot of great VSTs out there as well that you guys should definitely look up. So another thing we're going to add is just a little bit of reverb. We're just going to use a normal reverb with quite a small size and quite a low dry wet. It's really down to personal preference, you know, how big you want the reverb to sound, whether you want it to be quite in your face. Like if you want it to feel like it's right at the front of the mix, then you typically want less reverb, you know, a more dry reverb. That's typically the way to achieve that. Or if you want it to be in the background with another kind of bass element in front, that kind of takes the listener's focus rather than this sound, then you want kind of more reverb on it, so it's kind of pushed back in the mix. And then finally, I think what I did was just bring down this low shelf here, just to take out some of the muddy low frequencies. So I think that actually ended up sounding better than the sound I showed at the beginning, which is cool. Really cool sound. Hopefully you guys like it. Like I said, the main thing that gives this sound its characteristics is the how the oscillators are pitched. So definitely play around with all the different wavetables and stuff like that, and the different warp modes as well. There's really, this is kind of quite basic. You can really take this even further by using like external effects and stuff like that, maybe some distortion, or some like cool delays and stuff like that. Could be really cool and almost like psychedelic sounding. And yeah, hopefully you got a lot of use out of this sound. It's a really cool sound. I really like it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with new tutorials that I bring out. That really helps support the channel as well. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to leave them down below, or any suggestions for future tutorials as well. I'm always looking for new ideas on sounds to show you guys, because that's honestly one of the most challenging things about doing a channel like this, is coming up with new ideas to do tutorials on. So definitely leave suggestions down below. And again, like I mentioned at the start of the video, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out my website over at synthhacker.com, or click the link in the description below to check out my preset packs for Massive. Like I said at the beginning, I've currently got a sale on the Massive Mega Pack, which has over 500 presets, all handcrafted by me, that I think you guys will get a lot of use out of. So definitely go ahead and check that out if you haven't done already. And that's it from me, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.